we're going to do something that's as provocative and creative and art house or whatever that is as we can. The folks back home were expecting something else. And to their credit, after the first test screening and after they saw how an audience reacted, the next day they gave final cut to JT.
JT, I'll throw this question to you first, but both of you can jump in if you'd like. I just brought up that I saw this in September 2023 at Fantastic Fest, and I feel like the second I saw it, just something clicked, and I knew immediately that what I just witnessed was something special, and I couldn't wait for the world to experience it. When did you know how special your film was? Was it while you were making it, or at some point along that lengthy release process?
Hopefully, as a writer-director, you always think at the beginning that the film's really, really special. And to me, I knew we were doing something that would be special to me, and to us, hopefully. But I didn't know whether it would connect with other people and be special to them. And I try and free myself from that burden of hoping, because as an artist, you just make something and hope it can be special to you, and it really feels good if it connects with other people. So when you felt the way you did, and when the audiences at Fantastic Fest felt the way they did, it was a really exciting time for us, because that was our first test run, and it felt really, really good. And so over the course of this last year, as the movies rolled out, and other people have felt similar ways to the way you do, it's just been a really nice extra added bonus to the whole process.
Love hearing it. Do either of you two have a memory when it kind of, clicked and you felt what it meant to viewers out there?
Go ahead.
Whoa, me? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think from the first time I read it, I think it was really clear to me that it was a very singular script. I definitely never read anything like it, and that's a rare experience. I think most people could attest to that. I feel like most scripts, aren't as distinct as this script was, and I think that every day that we shot it on set, I was just kind of confirmed in my feeling of being like, ooh, we're making something really exciting and really different and really special, and it's just been amazing to see it find its home with all of you who are watching the movie and talking about the movie, because that's the stuff that we just dream of happening.
And it definitely did. I'll add one for you, Giovanni. When I was standing in the door right there and your name came up on the screen, I heard everyone applaud.
Oh, really?
There's a special
Wow.
special connectivity there. Very, very well deserved. I'm going to come to your beautiful work in a moment. But JT, I want to talk a little bit about writing this script, and I'll give you one of my favorite questions in the world to ask. What was idea number one for you, the thing that started all of this? But then also, did you have a break story moment on it, something you came up with along the way that made you think it is whole and ready to be made now?
It all started with the singular image of the final girl running through the woods. So the opening, the semi-opening shot of her running in slow motion through the woods came to me first with that song playing, strangely. And Love Hurts isn't my favorite song ever, although I love Emmylou Harris, but it was just something I was thinking about in a stream of consciousness sort of way as I was, going about my life, and I couldn't get that image out of my head, and it was sort of the archetypal final girl, Laurie Strode from Halloween, and I could see her, everything she was going through, and I was wondering why I couldn't get that image out of my head, and it felt very traditional and tired, but also fresh, and I didn't know, at first I did not know what the angle was going to be, or why that may become a script. And so as the course of months went by and I kept thinking about that image and that final girl, it could have died on the vine, but I finally came up with a different approach, which is finding a way to give her a different dimension than we'd seen in those other films. And the different dimension ended up being the Electric Lady. And that's the moment when I realized who she was going to be and who I wanted to tell the story about. It all sort of clicked, and then the script in many ways wrote itself. Like I was thinking about it for months and months and months, and once I wrote it, it was very quick, and it was a really enjoyable writing process, the typing portion of it, which usually that part is miserable for me. But this was a really easy and enjoyable writing process.
All right, Giovanni, now I'm going to go to you with bringing that script to screen so beautifully. Actually, first, I kind of want a broader view of your work as a director of photography, because I feel like so many people out there obviously know you for your work on camera, and when folks see this movie, everyone's like, I can't believe he shot that film, and it is your first feature. So I'll ask you a two-part question about that. Do you remember the very first moment when you discovered you had an itch to work as a cinematographer? And then also, what was it about JT's script that made you think, like, this is the right first feature for me?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I remember the first moment, but it was always just, as a child actor, it was always just something that was interesting. This mechanism on a set that I worked next to for at a certain point. I mean, I've been an actor for 40 years now, and it was always just this fascinating thing. And I think years ago, I had a visual effects company that my partners and I grew, and we ended up selling. And there was a moment that I had where I could sort of step back and kind of go, like, what do I want to do with my life at that point? And I just sort of, without really questioning, I just started shooting. And that was, I guess that was about 15 years ago. And then so over the last 15 years up to this, I was working on and shooting, directing, and shooting commercials and music videos and all that. So.
Like, truly, like an exquisite eye. I cannot wait to see
thank
what
you.
you do,
Thank
even well
you.
beyond this wonderful movie.
Thank you.
For both of you, I am curious to hear a little bit about your experience kind of developing the visual language for the movie, because I was reading that you had something like 4 or 5 months to prep. I think it was due to COVID. So can you maybe tell me what is the biggest difference between how you two originally pictured the movie looking at the beginning of that period and then what you settled on at the end?
It seems like the prep process was actually years in a way, because Giovanni and I became friends because we loved cinema, and we had a shared love of certain types of movies, and we were watching a lot of movies over the course of our friendship over the couple of years before I sent him this specific script. And he would call me and say, I'm watching The Servant and Mademoiselle, and I'd watch it, and I'd call him and say, I'm watching The Devils tonight, or Dead Ringers, whatever, The Red Shoes. I mean, we were kind of talking about films and how we liked a sort of robust, precisely choreographed, deep focus movies of the 60s and beyond. And so once I wrote this script and sent it to him, I remember saying something like, when he told me he liked it, I remember him saying something. I remember saying something to him like, "This is that movie we've been talking about." And so when he read the script and we started, and after that we were able to spend a huge amount of time that you normally don't get on a movie of this budget, just because Giovanni had the infrastructure and he had the place and he had the equipment, and he was able to test film stocks, and so we were able to spend a lot of time, the amount of time that most people spend on a much bigger budget movie, preparing this.
Thank you very much.
Voila.
Thank you.
Giovanni, anything you want to add to that part of the process?
I mean, it was just such a joy. It was like a honeymoon period for me, at least, and it was also, I think that there's something to be said, for me with JT, and something that they don't
About our honeymoon?
yeah that they don't really teach in film school, or maybe they do. I don't know, because I haven't been to film school. But it's that at least what I've learned, from 40 years, and it was Elia Kazan used to say that 75% of filmmaking and being a director really is attitude, and the other 25% is talent. And if you have this much attitude, in other words, if then you're, it's hard to focus that. And I couldn't say this more about anybody I know than JT because he really, I mean, what I saw him go through and how he sailed through the day and pulled it off, and every day, no matter what he experienced, we all experienced with clashing heads and whatever it was, it was a success. It was we made our days, and I think what we were shooting was looking great. And needless to say, Willa, I mean, and the performances in this were like, you know, and I mean, honestly, there were points where I was like, I honestly didn't see how we were going to finish but he was truly a captain in that way, and that is such an important factor within the creative experience of a film, so yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'll jump off of one thing you just said there. Willie, your performance in this is just like, you know how I feel about it, like top tier. No matter what ultimately happens over the next couple of months, I hope you know that you delivered one of the very best performances of the year, and it's definitely one that's never going to leave my mind.
Can I say something about Willa's performance?
Yeah, go for it, please.
Willa, we knew Giovanni's cinematography, and by the way, thank you for all the things you said, but also having somebody with his amount of experience on set with me, invaluable, like totally invaluable, especially when we were going through the challenges we went through. When I was watching the work that he was doing and watching what we had in our heads come to life, I knew it was special. And when I saw what she was doing on screen, I knew it was special. And then there were other people, the challenges, there were other people that we were sending it to in LA who were telling us it wasn't special. So that was a really weird time for me, because I was thinking, there were plenty of people who thought it was special, but there were a few who didn't. And a few of those people were in some of the positions of power, and I started wondering if we were crazy, and so clearly we weren't crazy. When you watch what she does in this film, I'm just so proud of you and everything you did, Willa. It's amazing, and I think this film, doesn't work without a central performance like that and a performance like Kyle's.
And we should also say, I think that to that point, and maybe I think JT and I have been we've been wanting to be discreet about that specific experience. But fuck it. The cat's out of the bag now. No, so everybody here at one, we got shut down twice on this movie because the folks back home were expecting something else. And to fast forward, and to their credit, after the first test screening and after they saw how an audience reacted, the next day, there it is. The next day, they gave final cut to JT. And so again, these are people who they're people. They're I've been probably in their shoes and been as concerned and neurotic about certain things, projects that I was on. But I guess it speaks to what JT did really was he had a movie that sort of read as possibly a horror final girl thriller that was so exquisitely and brilliantly and elegantly thought out and structured. And then for that 5 months, we said, okay, so that's part of it is taken care of, more or less. We're going to do something that's as provocative and creative and art house or whatever that is as we can, to bring a sort of elegance to it, I guess, right? But yeah.
And Bill Block gave us final cut, by the way, at Miramax. Yeah. So when I say there were powers that be who hated the movie or whatever, it wasn't Bill. I mean, he was.
They just had expectations.
He was disconnected from. I mean, he's the studio head. So there are people assigned to the project, and sometimes there were a lot of people who telling us it wasn't great and telling Bill it wasn't great, and he was always really nice about it. But once we tested, a testament to him, Bill Block, is that so many people will not come around, and Bill was like, I believe in this movie now. I see what you're doing with this film. I sat with an audience and watched the movie, and he became like our greatest ally leading up to the festival premiere and all that. And once he parted ways with Miramax, it was definitely a sad day for us at that point, because we had gotten used to him as a great ally.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh,
Sorry, to
absolutely.
that really quickly. So you're. I mean, and this is about Willa as well. You read the script, and it's, as a producer, you go, wow, this is incredible. I mean, within 15 minutes, I was calling JT after reading it, and it was 10 o'clock at night. He was at his own birthday party, and I took him away from his birthday party.
It was worth like, walking away from the birthday party.
We were trying to
have
a conversation, but I was trying to, you can go, oh, this is, the next, hot bimbo playing this role. And when they saw dailies, they had, Willa had done this amazing character that was based in something real and a history, and something that was haunting and haunted, and I think it was just sort of like, it was, it was jarring. It was just not what they were expecting. So anyways, yeah, it was, I was going to say a lot more, but I'll stop. There we go again. Jesus, this is embarrassing.
That's why I left mine on the floor. I'm so used to being up here spilling water all over the place. I just don't do it anymore. Willa, let's highlight your phenomenal work in this movie quite a bit now. So I don't know if this is the way that you approach your characters, but someone recently explained it to me this way, and I've kind of gotten a little obsessed with the idea that, when you start a new movie, a new character, you're kind of on unstable ground trying to figure out who they are. And then you have that moment where, like, you think of something or you do something and you're like, I get who they are now. Did you have that with the Electric Lady? And if so, when?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very succinct way of kind of summing up the process. You certainly, at the beginning, kind of were like, whoa, what are the trail markers? Where am I going? What is the foundation that we're building on? And I mean, there were a lot of different ways in, and I've talked about a lot of those. I think a big part was kind of just maintaining the integrity of the journey of the story chronologically, and kind of really understanding who this person was based on what the exact plot points were, which was important to me for building everything else. But I guess a more kind of interesting moment for me was actually she's an animal. She's fundamentally an animal trying to survive. That was always really clear to me. And I think there was a moment, you YouTube a lot of weird shit as an actor. You're always searching for weird shit on YouTube. And I was looking at raccoons. And there was this one particular. This
one's new for me. I don't know. Please, no, go on.
And there was this one particular video of this raccoon that had been cornered in this garbage can by this man with a broom. And I don't think I ever told you this. And the raccoon is just trying to survive. And then you realize that there's a baby in there. And it was just the pure need of this raccoon, and the total impersonal nature and non-moral judgment of this raccoon attacking that man was really foundational for me understanding why she does what she does. Because, some people have talked to me about the lady and they're like, so let's talk about playing a sociopath. And I'm 100% she's not a sociopath. And if you think that she is, then we are watching different movies, which is fine. It's not, you can have whatever experience you have watching the movie, but playing her, for me, she's entirely not a sociopath. And so therefore understanding why she's doing what she's doing had to come from a different kind of place. And I feel for me, that really did come from this sort of, animalistic drive to survive.
I can't believe how well you just landed that plane there. It makes all the sense in the world now. So I guess now I have to ask about the man to your raccoon. I have to ask about Kyle, who is just also everything I see him in, I just like fall head over heels for like all of his work as an actor, and here it's no different. Do you remember the very first moment, either in prep or on set, when you two did something together and you were able to look at him and basically go like, "You are the demon to my lady"?
Yeah, well, interestingly, the all of the stuff in the hippie house is what we shot first. So the first stuff I really did with Kyle was, you know, the icebox stuff, him hunting me, and then you know, the whole monologue to him in the icebox and everything that happens after. And you know, I think very early on in reading the script and understanding the arc of the movie and the arc of the character, I knew that icebox scene was kind of really fundamental to landing the emotional weight of the character for me, and the emotional weight of that relationship for her. And so I remember kind of going into that day of shooting, and you know, Kyle and I only been working together for like 5 days, and we'd barely spoken to each other like on set in front of a camera. We'd, you know, had time off set together, getting to know each other. But that was like the first day that we really had dialogue with each other, I feel like. And you know, I think we both knew what we needed to do, but to get to do it with him was one of those rare and just really special experiences as an actor, where there is this sort of like magic happening on set, and you can feel yourself being changed by the other person's presence and by the other person being in that moment with you. And oof, they give me chills. But it's like, I think it's why I'm an actor, of course. It's like this kind of like ineffable experience that you get to have, and it's really personal and really special. And I think that from that point on, we were just like, oh yeah, you got me. And it gave us this fantastic foundation for a ton of other stuff that was hard in a ton of other different ways. You know, like the motel room, hard in a whole other set of ways. The wood stuff, whole other set of ways. The car was just actually fucking fun. It was written really well. It was like, after everything else we'd been through, it was just easy. You know, we were just like in a car chatting, you know, like it was just like, it was so easy. I remember I was just being like, I can't believe we just get to like talk.
You were worried about your lungs that day.
Oh yes, a lot of cigarettes, a lot of juuling. But yeah, he's fabulous. I feel very lucky to have gotten to do this with him.
He's one of the best, and I love like the 1, 2, 3 punch he's having right now, between this doing really well, Dinner in America having like a little bit of a resurgence, and then also his A+ opening for Smile 2. If any of you haven't seen those 2 movies, go and watch that after this.
Kyle Gallner, everybody.
Seriously. I'll throw this to you, JT and Willa. It's actually from our conversation last year, and it's something that I've been eager to follow up on ever since. You were telling me about your collaboration, and you mentioned that maybe 3 or 4 times during the shoot you thought you had what you needed, but then Willa spoke up and said she wanted another take, and you told me that every time she did that, that is the take you used in the finished film. Now that we have all seen the finished film, can you give us maybe an example or 2 of a time she did that?
Well, that was a different cut. After the Fantastic Fest, I did a whole new cut with all my takes.
It's like, no way.
No, it's very, very true, and it was one of the great joys of my life was, you know, working with Willa. This whole cast was, I mean, it was a really great experience working with this cast and learning Kyle's language, Willa's language, and Barbara Hershey, Ed Begley Jr. I mean, the directing actors on this was really amazing, and you know, Giovanni talks about, we were both talking about how tough this situation was, and Willa will talk about how tough it was. That it wasn't about the interactions between us. It was really a like rewarding experience working with these actors. And Willa would take direction so well, and we talked about the lady ad nauseum for, you know, the week that she was there before we shot. We went to dinners, we had discussions. There's, you know, it was by design that there's no backstory explicated in the movie. Like, we just wanted everything you could find out about her emotionally to be in the present in that 24 hours. However, Willa and I knew everything about where the lady had been and where she'd come from. And you can tell that she knows exactly where she came from in every bit of that. So as we were getting into the film, I knew that nobody knew this character or loved this character more than Willa. And it's 50% of the reason I wanted to cast Willa was because in our initial meetings, when we had Zooms, she was just the only actor I talked to who expressed the same degree of empathy and love for the lady that I felt in my heart as the writer. And so she felt that. And when we went into those scenes, I had a really specific idea of how I wanted her to be in those scenes, which I always go into a movie with very specific ideas, and I would explain those ideas to her, and she'd do the scenes and do it exactly how I asked. And there were 3 or 4 times during production where she'd be like, I need one more, and I was like, I promise you don't. And I was trying to just give her confidence because I'd seen amazing work already, and I knew I had what I needed. And she'd say, can I please have one more? And of course, we would give her one more. And it is true. Every one of those times, I think it was probably 4 times, and I can remember specifically what they were. Those are the takes we used. And the one that really comes to mind is you in the freezer and the sound guys getting very, very upset with us for not warning them. When you scream after spitting the chunk out.
That's bad form not to warn the sound guys.
Yeah. So sorry to the sound team, but no, that's very true, and that's one of the greatest things when you work with somebody, having them be able to take direction and feed it, and fit into a specific vision, but also bring their own creativity and their own knowledge of the character and intimacy with the character to the screen. And I was just very grateful for those moments.
I have to wrap with you. Breaks my heart. If anyone saw like my face turn into a frown, it was because this is almost over, but I wanted to make sure to at least ask you all a question about that ending. Willa, we've spoken about this scene, and it is one of like the most appropriately excruciating and upsetting death scenes I think I've ever seen. It's really something else. So for each of you, Willa, what do you have to do to prepare for a moment like that? JT, what is it like figuring out the length of a scene like that? And then Giovanni, how do you figure out the right angle to capture her performance as well as you do there?
How do you prepare? I mean, I feel like dying on camera is one of those interesting experiences where you've certainly never died in real life. And therefore, you really have to kind of extrapolate from like some witchy places. But I do think that I believe because we only shot it twice, and I believe that the one that we shot on the last day of filming, and it was the last thing I shot as the character, and that was one of those experiences where this character had meant so much to me, means so much to me, and to like say goodbye to her in that way, in that moment, was profoundly moving to me, just like as a person, not even as an actor. And also by that point, I had already been inhabiting this character for 5 weeks. I knew everything that I felt I would get to learn about her in that time. And it was just kind of the perfect opportunity to sort of literally leave it all on the table. And I think that sometimes you just get lucky like that, and you kind of get to have that sort of like full circle moment of just like ending at the end.
It's like truly exquisite work. I still can't get over it.
It's the most important scene in the movie because without it, you lose so much of her humanity. And so that to me, that was the most important scene in the movie, and it was all about casting somebody who could do it because
How did
we
you
were
know
just
I could do that, JT?
locking it off. I really didn't until you did it, but I had a good feeling that you could. No, it was incredible. And then, of course, it was the most stressful time for a director doing something like that because the DP has such a challenging job and the actor has such a challenging job, and then you have to just hope it works.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we were running and trying to find a window of light where it was, the framing of the sun was in a specific place, and then everybody's organizing, and we're tilting the camera down bringing it back up, locking it, running back to the van, and Willa's like suffering all of that with us, and just being so patient, and then yeah, I remember we rolled out, and it was kind of like the timing, everything seemed to just work.
The
And
rollouts in the movie at the end
yeah,
of the last
and it was just like that. We got what we needed. It felt rhythmically right, and then JT and Chris Bell, the editor, I mean, incredible, just what they did with it, and yeah, and then the soundtrack as well. That's another thing. But I guess
We shot no coverage, by the way. We shot her.
Yeah, that was
and
it.
we knew how gorgeous it was, and it was written that way in the script. And it, like,
That was
Giovanni pulled it off, she pulled it off, and everybody, like, they were calling from back home, and they're like, "You shot coverage, right? In case we need to do like a back and forth, do something else with the final scene." And I was like, "Sure."
Yeah.
No, well, but it was my answer was we literally did not have time. You know, that was the final, and nobody was going to give us more time, and so
Yeah,
it was a
we ran out of
blessing.
like that was it.
It was a blessing.
Yeah,
We had nothing to
certain
cut away
point,
to.
Well, where you landed with that is just so utterly perfect. Again,
Oh, thanks.
congratulations. Undeniably one of my favorite films of the year. Congratulations on Strange Darling. And to everybody out there, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Perri.